Hi everybody, it's Cray and I teach watercolor and sometimes gouache, and today we are doing our spooky tree project. Ah. I'm so excited for this project. I've always had a love for painting like trees that are like gnarled.
Evil.
So I'm really excited to do this project with you guys. We have Michael working the cameras here.
Hello, everybody.
And we are going to be doing this project in 6 steps. So our very first step is we are going to paint a color transition for our sky. Our second step is then we will do our outline. I'm not doing the outline first. Even though you'll see it on my paper, you do not need to do the outline yet. That's part of step 2.
Gotcha.
Step 3, we are going to do the tree and mist. Step 4, we are going to do these droopy branches in a cool technique that I'll show you how to do. Step 5 is we will add like the orange branches here that really play into like the richness of the color and the lighting. And our very last step is just doing highlights and kind of tightening things up. Now, before we get started, I want to tell you that this is where I used the gouache in a way that the colors are very saturated and it's very opaque. I did also do a version where the colors were watered down, and this will give it more of a misty, mystical feel. So I wanted to show you the 2 options, and you don't have to do this coloring either. That's the cool thing, is you can do any kind of color background, but this is just watered down gouache, and that's why it's this light value, and I think it adds to the mistiness.
Sarah, look out. There's a spider on your hand.
This is my friend. What should we name him?
Spencer.
Spencer the spider?
Yeah.
He's hanging out with us today.
Spencer.
Spencer.
He spins webs.
Okay, so the colors that I'm using, we're going to use all 6 colors that come in this October box, which is called the Witching Hour. Our first color here is Ivory Black. Our second color is Permanent White. Our third color is Yellow Ochre. Our fourth color is Turquoise Blue. Our 5th color is Violet. And our last color is Brilliant Orange. This is all Holbein gouache, which I'm a huge fan of. They're great. They make excellent gouache, and the colors on them are so vibrant. So I put all of those colors out here on my butcher palette tray. I have my brushes that I'm using. So I will be using a round 2, a round 6, a round 12, and a 1-inch wash.
Cool.
But please use whatever brushes you have. Okay, so let's do our oath, and then let's get into it. So if you can raise your right hand and repeat after me. I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise not to compare my work.
Promise not to compare my work.
And I promise to have spooky fun.
And I promise to have spooky fun. Throw me for a loop there.
I know. See if you guys are paying attention. Keeping you on your toes. Okay. And I love any kind of paintings that we can really like pump up saturation and like add these kind of details that give it a feel. And so that's why I love seasonal paintings, because like, you know, mist and these droopy, gnarly trees and this vibrant purple, yellows and oranges, like it just is very seasonal to me. And I think that's really fun. And what is life without a little bit of fun, you know? Okay, so I have the outline on here already and I made a mistake. Don't do the outline yet, or you'll have to do it twice.
You thought you were being prepared.
I thought I was, because the thing is gouache is opaque. So we're going to do our entire background and you're not going to be able to see this outline at all. So I'll just do it twice. Okay, so we're just going to do basically a color wash for the background. And we want to leave our sun or moon, whatever you're feeling, white. So the color change is going to go white to yellow ochre to brilliant orange to kind of like this pinkish orange, and we do that by mixing violet to more of a violet and then more of a blue violet. Okay, so that is our color transition here. It's all radiating around the center because that's where our light source is.
Sweet.
So you can use your round 12. You can use your round or your wash, your 1-inch wash, whatever's easier. So I'm going to start with yellow ochre and some water, and I'm just going to go for it. Okay. So let's start by putting this in. And I'm kind of like working carefully around here. Okay. And then let's go stronger. And we do have white, so if you cover over your white circle, it's not a big deal. Now I'm going to mix some brilliant orange into my yellow. Now I will say that between these two colors, that's a hard line between these two. And we want it to feel a little bit more smooth, the transition more smooth than that. So whenever that happens, I kind of just like rinse my brush of that strong orange. I'm going to grab some yellow ochre, some fresh yellow ochre, and then just paint right on top, kind of smoothing out that transition.
Where in your mind is this picture?
Like, what do you mean?
Like, for me, it's like the bayou somewhere.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, totally. Now I'm going to add, I'm like a graveyard.
A tree? Sunset?
Outside. Okay, I'm going to grab more of my violet and start adding that to my orange. Now, this is the other tricky thing with gouache is it's really common to get these little white spots. So just make sure you're kind of like painting areas over again to kind of make sure you're not leaving any white gaps. Now, if you are unfamiliar with gouache and you're like, I've never used gouache, how do I use it? We have an entire video dedicated to what gouache is and how to use it and how it's different from watercolor and acrylic. So it's super helpful. It's called Intro to Gouache. Please refer to that if you need to use that to do this painting. Okay, so now I'm going for more of like pure violet or pure, it's more red right now. I'm going to do a little bit more red right here. And I think I did maybe a bit too much orange, and that's why this is reading more orange than pink, but that's okay because we will go back. Again, I'm just trying to smooth out these color transitions here. Now I just want to show you the difference. Here I just added water to fill it in and see how it's more of like that lighter value. This one was mostly paint. So that's the difference here. And I'm going to get some fresh violet. See if I can get more of that pink in there. So I'm basically just going to layer the violet on top. And the other thing that you can do with gouache, which is sometimes nice, is let's say you're just like, okay, I'm layering so many colors that it's actually turning into a darker value. You can actually lift color. So I just took water. I'm kind of just putting it right on top. And you see how it's lifting? So you can just like use your brush to lift up this paint. This is why I think sometimes people have a hard time with gouache is because when you like are trying to layer, if you have too much water on your brush, then it actually lifts instead of layers, and that could be frustrating. But just so you know, you can lift. And that's what I'm doing a little bit here. There we go, that feels better. And then I could just take this color out a little bit. But I don't want to take it all the way because I want to do kind of like a bluish purple in there. You can also use your paper towel to lift. But you have to be careful because if you do this too many times where you're lifting color out, it's going to start to wear your paper down. Okay? And now I'm just doing a light washing of violet right on top. Now I'm going to move more towards pure violet. Maybe add some water to that because that will make it less jittery, which is a word that we've already decided to describe it, but I think that tutorial you'll see last. So if you're going in order, you'll see us come up with that name in real time.
It's funny because I was waiting for you to bring that up again. I asked ChatGPT what that word is.
Yeah.
It just says dry brush. And I said, well, describe the texture of dry brush, please.
Yeah.
Here's what we got. You ready?
Yeah.
Jittery, I still think wins, but we've got sparse,
Mm-hmm.
feathered,
Mm-hmm.
broken, or scratchy.
Okay. I kind of like feathered though.
Feathered. Yeah. Reminds me of 1980s hair, though.
Yeah. Okay. So as you can see, you're kind of just working a lot of things back and forth, trying to get the color transitions to be more smooth. And then along the bottom here, I'm going to mix a little bit of my turquoise with my violet. Let's see. Yeah, that's that more. That's like deep purpley color. And again, if it's feeling too gluey, like it just won't move for you, then you can add a little bit of water to your brush. So again, I'm just kind of working these areas back and forth. Let's actually do a little bit more, one more layer of purple along the bottom, because I think it got a tiny bit too blue. And this is the other nice thing about gouache, just layering right on top. And let's just go all the way down, why not? Even though this is going to be covered. Sometimes if you can like paint the whole area, it just is easier to, you'll like, how do I say what I'm saying? You won't get white chunks. You're able to overlap, you know?
Gotcha.
Now I want to be clear, this is a lighter value because I just used water to smear it down. And that's okay because I know it's going to be covered with the black. If my bottom of the like ground were not to start till here and you would have this light value purple right here, that would throw the viewer's eye a little bit. So I just want to call attention to that. Okay, now what we need to do is we need to let this dry and then we will transfer our outline on top of it. And the reason why we need to transfer our outline on top of it is I can see my outline a little bit, but not well. And I want to be able to see what I'm about to paint. So let this dry and then transfer your outline, okay? And we're actually gonna fast forward through letting it dry and the outline transfer part. So we'll see you back here in a couple minutes when that is done. So I have transferred my outline to my painting. And hopefully now you can see where we're gonna paint. Now the nice thing is we're essentially doing the rest of this in black with some highlights. And so if your outline is really dark, that's okay because the edges of this painting are gonna be black pretty much. I would also like to call attention to the fact that once these tutorials are released on our YouTube channel, all of our outlines are free. If you go to letsmakeart.com, scroll to the bottom, and on the very bottom, there's like a list there, and you click resources, and then it will take you to, there will be an option for outline library. You click on that, and there are literally hundreds of outlines for you guys. So I just want you to know that you can still absolutely paint with us and find our outlines that way. Okay. So I put in my tree and I'm going to do my gravestone first. The gravestone is going to be a great warm up on kind of what we're going for our tree here. So I'm going to start with black. I'm going to use my round 6 and ivory black. And I'm going to paint the headstone, sorry. Is a gravestone and a headstone different?
I think they're probably the same. Let me look for you.
Thank you. So I'm just using this ivory black along the top. And then as I kind of make my way down, I'm going to grab a tiny bit of, let me get some fresh violet on here. and white. And that's because we're trying to give the hint of mist. Now, mist or fog within a painting is just light, a light value. That's all it is. So I want to do a hint of a light value transition. So along this bottom here, I'm going to put in this gray, like so. Maybe even push it. Now I'm adding a little bit of purple just for some like color, so it's not pure gray, but it's still going to read pretty gray. And then let's transition that back to black. Okay, so I'm painting this headstone, gravestone. Headstone, gravestone?
Let me tell you some fun facts, Sarah. I just looked them up.
Okay, great.
All right. And I want to preface by saying all of these end up meaning the same thing in modern day. But
Okay.
historically, a headstone is at the top of a grave, right?
Okay.
A gravestone is a stone that covers the entirety, like a 6-foot long slab.
Oh, that's a gravestone?
That's a gravestone.
Okay, okay, okay.
A tombstone is if you have a stone casket, it's
Okay.
the top.
Okay.
And a footstone is the opposite of a headstone. It's like a little marker at the bottom.
Okay, so this would be
That would be a headstone.
a headstone. And on this headstone, thank you so much for that information.
You're very welcome.
And on this headstone, we're trying to convey that there's like fog or mist underneath it. And how you do that in any kind of painting is you want to lighten its value. So I'm going to use a little bit of white, a little bit, mix that in with my black, maybe a little bit of purple. And I'm just going to, like, along the bottom here where this fog would be touching the gravestone. Headstone?
Headstone.
Headstone.
Again, they all can mean anything now, essentially.
Okay. Then we're going to lighten the value. And I'm going to add a little bit more purple in there because I like it when there's like just color. I'm a fan of color. So it's kind of like this hint here, just like that. And you can also just kind of like use water too, because when you use just water, you see how that's picking up paint, just like how we were doing on our transitions. Sometimes with watercolor and gouache, we can really utilize the water to help us with our values and creating lighter values and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to let that dry, and then I'll go back and do a highlight on it and all that kind of stuff. Now what we're going to do is we are going to move on painting the tree, which is going to take a long time. Not very long, but like it's a big portion. So I'm going to start with my round 12 because for the trunk, the thicker portions, I can use a bigger brush. And then when I get to the branches, that's when I'll move to probably a 6 or maybe a 2. Now, the nice thing about like gnarled trees is they could be like bumpy and wonky and shaped kind of weird. So if you have an unsteady hand, this is the tree to paint for you. And also, like, sometimes our hands just don't always do what we want them to do. So in this painting, it's okay. So wherever I can like paint using a round 12, I'm going to, because it's just going to be easier for me, like faster. And then when I get to the bottom of this trunk here, I want to do the same thing where I'm kind of adding a little bit of purple, a little bit of white, just to kind of give the hint that there is kind of mist and fog coming up. And we'll go back and do like a highlight on the fog, which will really kind of make it pop. But sometimes it's nice just to have a little value transition between that. I kind of like how that bled a little bit, like the paint moved. And I'm going to leave that actually because I think that's beautiful. I'm not going to smooth that out. And we're just going to keep on going. So the other thing you want to be careful of when you are painting with gouache is we want to add water to it to make it smoother. But if we add too much water, it actually changes its opacity. And so if you're adding black to your tree and then as it dries, you see that it's not as like thick and dark as you want it to, that might mean that you're using too much water. And it's not a big deal because you could just go back and paint on top of it, but just kind of check that and be aware of that. Okay, so I'm at the point where I'm going to switch to my 6 because I'm getting into smaller areas. And then wherever you can like just do a continuous line, go for it. This doesn't have to be too like you kind of outline it and then fill it in. You can do that, but if you can do it in like one stroke, that's just going to save you some time, which is nice. I'm kind of like lightening, trying to thin out my brush stroke as I get to the edge of the branches. But on the ones that I want to be like really nice and thin, I'll switch to my 2. And if you get a little lost in the sauce on where you are, just go for it. This is such a wonky, funky tree that like you can really do your own thing and it will turn out awesome.
Just treat it like a not big deal.
Exactly. Okay, and this is about the time where I'm going to switch to my round 2. Grab my round 2. Grab up some paint. You want to make it so it can move, but that it's not a lighter value. And just kind of follow the wonky lines. Now it's okay if you like accidentally skip a section or something like that. Don't feel like you have to fill in every little thing. And again, this tree is going to look pretty bare until we add our brushes, like our brush technique for the small little branches that are coming out. And then maybe you want to give the hint that the tree kind of like continues on. So maybe we have like a branch coming up this way. This way. It's kind of fun painting wavy branches. Usually I don't, you know? Okay. Let's see. That feels really good. Let's start adding our brush technique. Now this was really fun to do because I was thinking about, I had this reference photo of this tree that had like these long, thin, drapey things from it. And they were like actual little stems. They weren't leaves. They were like little tiny.
So like moss? Like
it's not moss.
No?
It looks like just branches that are like hair-like that kind of drift down. And at first I was using my round 2 brush, drawing every little single one. And I was like, there has to be a better way. So then I'm like, well, what if I take my 1-inch brush and kind of like let that do the work for me? Now, the thing is, you want to make sure your 1-inch brush is damp. You don't want it to be dry because when it's damp, you'll see that it actually like turns into these chunky sections. You see that?
Yeah.
And that's actually what we want. And then I'm going to lift up. See, I'm using my finger to kind of like hide half of the bristles. That's because I want them to be about this thick. If you want to use your whole brush, that's fine, but you got to know that this whole thing will make a mark, which is pretty strong. So I'm going to bend half of them. If you have like a 1/2-inch wash brush, use that. But I'm just using my 1-inch. And I'm going to do a tester first. Right. So basically what I'm going to do is pick up some paint and then just kind of drag it. Now you'll see that it actually got pretty smooth, and I want it to be a little bit chunkier than that. So I wonder if I have too much too much paint on my brush. So I'm going to get rid of some of that extra paint. That's a little bit better. Yeah, you see how there's these like individual strokes. Make sure you guys can see it, but I don't want to like ruin my painting. And then the cool thing about that is it's going to follow your motion. So I liked it when I did a little curve and then straight down. And the reason why this is curving is because the paper isn't flat. But the hope would be is you would go a little bit to the right and then down, or a little bit to the left and then down. And you can even go up and then down like that, which is kind of cool because it creates this feeling that it's going up and then falling down. Okay? So just kind of get used to that motion. And I always want to start at my branch and then go down, because you'll see it thins out towards the bottom, which is true to what we would see for these like branches. Okay? You guys ready?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So I'm holding up my brush here. I'm grabbing my paint. It's nice and chunky. And I'm just going to be like, it's just a piece of paper. And so kind of where these branches are coming out, they're doing like these wisps. And it's okay if you like go to make a mark and they like skip or something. Isn't that cool?
So good.
Oh, I'm so in love with it. I'm like, this is awesome. And so I'm just going to kind of like go along these branches and keep and don't even though these little hair-like things are off the edge of the branches, don't forget that even like back here, there would be a little bit kind of coming off, like a little growth that we don't see or something like that. And doesn't that just add so much to the painting?
Yeah, it's crazy.
And you can make them longer, you can make them shorter. You can make them wave and move if you want to. If you want to give the feeling that there's wind, have them all swoop the same way.
I'm going to try to look up what they are. I'm just so curious. Is it the species of tree, do you think?
Yeah, I think it's the type of tree.
Okay.
And I feel like it was like a Japanese tree, but I can't. I should have I think I just typed gnarled tree maybe? I don't know. And also have some kind of like the tree keeps on going, kind of coming in from the top. And on these like longer areas, like let's say you want the whole kind of branch, you can use like, let's see what it looks like when you do the whole 1 inch. So on those bigger areas, you totally can. Now around this sun, I'm going to avoid it because I actually want to do those in orange instead of black. I wonder what would happen if I moved it on its side. I'm going to try it. Well, no. No, I don't like it. I just really love it when you have found a technique that just creates such a cool effect and really simplifies the work that you have to do.
Yeah.
I'm
That
like,
would be a nightmare with it like around 2.
I mean, and I was doing it, but the other thing too was even with my round 2, I couldn't get such delicate marks. And so when I was just like, I'm going to try this, I'm going to see if it works, the marks that I was able to get from doing this technique were better than my round 2. Okay, that is looking good.
All right, what I'm finding, and I could be looking at the wrong thing, but they're called bald cypress.
Bald cypress. Okay.
They are really cool.
Aren't they? Can I see a picture?
Hold please.
I just want to see if that's like, maybe that's it. I can't tell. It's okay.
Check this one.
That looks like Spanish moss though.
Oh, they're coming off the bark.
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
So then maybe that's it.
I don't know. If you know,
I don't know what it is, but it's really cool.
if you people out in Painty Land know what this is, please let us know.
Please let us know. Okay. So I feel really good about my little branches, my drooping branches coming off of my tree. And now what we are going to do is we are going to move to step 5. And this is where we're going to kind of like put in some highlights and finish off our mist and our ground to really give this feeling of mistiness and light. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take some brilliant orange here and just kind of, and it's on your outline, but wherever that light is kind of hitting the tree just a little bit, I'm just going to do a little highlight of orange. And then this branch coming out here, I'm going to do an orange, and I might have to switch to my 2 to get that nice delicate line. Like that. And then what I like to do to kind of really emphasize this color transition is I'm going to start it as like a brown, and then it's going to move to a bright orange. This little branch right here, that's right underneath the sun. I guess if I was following the rules of light, it would be black because it's silhouetted, but I'm making up my own rules here on this painting, and I'm just going for it. Okay, that looks good. And then I'm going to want to rinse my brush. So there's no black. Dry it on my paper towel. And then I'm going to pick up brilliant orange on the corner. Same idea that we did for our branches, except I'm doing it with orange. And get rid of any excess paint. And sometimes if you like pull the bristles out too, that might help them kind of chunk. And then let's do some orange ones.
Cool.
Doesn't that just give it a little bit extra that light is right behind there shining through? I love doing little just hints like that. Now, we are going to move back to the base and finish up the bottom of our painting. So real quick, before we do that, if you want to shape your sun a little bit more using white, and you don't have to cover the whole thing, because remember, those orange branches are in front of it. But if you want to be like really showing that this is a nice bright white sun or moon, you can do like a little bit more white in there to really accentuate it if you lost it when you were doing your color transitions. This tree is so cool.
Yeah,
I'm such a fan. Okay.
I love the orange part so much, the orange branches.
Yes, don't they just add?
Yes.
It just, something simple like that is really what takes your painting and just pushes it, and I love that. Okay, so we have the sense of mist starting up here, but I've been kind of avoiding the bottom completely. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take black and paint the ground. Kind of ground art, and you can have it kind of go off here if you want. And then I'm going to grab a little bit of white and a little bit of purple or violet. And water. We're going to add some mist in there. And I feel like it needs to be lighter than that, so I'm going to grab a bit more white. And let's do a bit more violet. There we go, that feels a bit better. But it still is reading super gray to me, so I'm going to just like really go crazy with this violet. Oh yeah, that feels better. And it's okay if it kind of goes into the black a little bit. Take some more black and kind of smooth out that bottom. And then I'm going to take just white. And let's actually switch my round two. And using just white, I'm going to kind of like do some white chunks in here. Like the mist is really condensed.
This is my favorite part of the painting.
How these details kind of like, or what do you mean?
I just mean the bottom of the tree, the foggy part.
Yeah.
It just feels the most creepy.
It's just that extra sense.
Yeah.
Of something a little going on. And that's why I wanted to call this box the witching hour, because I think it's the witching hour. I actually know that term from when I had my daughter, because she would cry every single night from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. And I'm like, what is happening? And so that's kind of like a phrase for when babies just kind of cry at night. But it actually is like a folklore myth that's where like the spirits are their most powerful, the witching hour. And so kind of weird and funky things happen during that. And so I was just like, what a fun idea. And we're gonna do some witching hour paintings that just feel a little like something's going on. So this is looking really good. I will say that this area right here feels a little confusing to me. So I'm gonna do another layer of black just to kind of separate the mist and the tree a little bit more. But if you're looking at yours and you're like, I don't really need that in mine, then don't do it. That is the beautiful thing, is you can look at your painting and decide what it needs. Now, one thing too that really hits, like makes the highlight super powerful and strong, is I'm going to take my round two and brilliant orange, and right on the top of this headstone, just to highlight.
Cool.
And that's going to give it dimension. Before it felt very flat, because you have to think about the stone itself has a thickness to it. And just by doing a little highlight right along the top, the sun is highlighting it, and it makes it feel like it all of a sudden has a thickness. And that was just a swoop, my friend. I am going to straighten this side though. Okay.
Super cool.
This is our spooky tree. And I'm so happy with it. I really love how it turned out. And I love this painting. And remember, if you want one that feels more foggy and misty, just do a lighter value. But I really loved the colors of this. And we're going to remove our tape because it's really satisfying to get a clean edge, especially on full page gouache paintings, because it's like such strong color. Now, I just want to say that we're doing this to satisfy, but when you're painting at home on this paper, if you want your painting to dry as flat as possible, try and keep it taped down to the surface for like a day before you remove the tape, and that will just makes it dry flatter.
Dang.
Cool, huh?
Crisp.
And just so you know, like with gouache, because you can layer it, like if you wanted to add mist within the tree too, and not just along the bottom, you would just take white gouache, kind of water it down and spread that around kind of thing. So you can totally add mist to different places. But thank you so much for painting this project with me. I hope you have so much fun with it and feel the courage and the freedom to make it yours. And if there's something in the back of your mind that says, I wonder what would happen if I try this, please do it. Trying and experimenting and going with that voice, that's your creative voice, that's your artistic voice. Follow it. And the more comfortable you feel following that voice, the easier it will be for you to find your own style, start making your own paintings, and kind of let your creative practice be your own. So follow it, do it. Thank you for painting with me. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.